Hi everyone, Jill from the Northwoods. How the heck are you? We are having a blizzard and we're getting more snow every consecutive Saturday for the next 3 Saturdays. So I'm pretty excited about that. We are going to talk, I talked about titrating down, and I was going to continue that arc and have some tips for you. But something interesting happened this week, and I thought I should probably address it earlier rather than later. But let me talk about a few things to talk about. So I told you how I talked to my doctor. He is on board with the plan. He liked the plan. He thought it sounded smooth, slow. And he said, I would love to tell you that people keep the weight off when they leave GLP-1s, and that is not my experience. And I said, I understood that. And I said, this is kind of what I was thinking, is that we would move down in dose. I have not felt great. Oops, sorry. I have not felt great on this particular dose, and that I would feel better if I started to move down a little bit. And I said I thought really hard about what he said about keeping the 80-pound weight loss and then either addressing the last 20, 25 or not. But, the idea is that the most important thing is that I keep this off and I keep the weight off. And it kind of felt like all things are moving together. And things that I have going in my favor, I believe, and maybe it's not true, that I fundamentally fixed my eating over a decade ago. And that, it's like if you got yourself into debt. Somehow you spent yourself into oblivion 20 years ago, and now you're spending your whole life trying to get out of debt. You'd say, I'm good now, I just have to get out of debt. And I felt like that's what my weight loss experience is. And so I feel like Mounjaro has gotten me out of debt, and that I have learned the lessons. I exercise now, I eat healthy, and I don't eat too much. And my eating habits, let's just say like in the 90s and even in the 2010s, I played video games so significantly that I never moved. I barely even got up. And I put myself into a real health debt with that. And I feel that's fixed too. I don't do any of that. I am now a functioning human being. And so I feel like I have things going my way. So the plan is that what we did is he moved me down to 10, which I will take this week, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then we'll keep on that for 2 months and then go down to 7.5. But, see, like every step of the way is going to be flexible in that we will see, am I gaining weight? Is my glucose going up? Am I continuing to lose weight? How do I feel? Am I feeling better? And with 10 is when I started to feel bad. But at June, so I started that in February, and in June, I was no longer feeling the effects of the dose. Even though, I was still losing weight slowly. So maybe that's a good sweet spot. But I have to tell you, 7.5 is when I felt the best in life. I was losing weight consistently, and I felt great. And the last time I felt great was when I left 7.5. So my plan is that we will do this for 2 months. I will talk to him again. And then if everything's good, we will go to 7.5 and see how that does. So that is a plan. He liked it. He did have some suggestions for me. And one of them, he liked the idea of moving up in calories. We talked about the calorie amounts. So BMR, which is what you think, like if I was just a blob sitting on the couch, if I was me in the 90s playing video games, that's how many calories you would expect to burn just by being alive. And that comes in somewhere around 1,300. I'm very short. So my BMR is just never going to be very high. And then I also exercise probably about 250 calories every day. I'm not going to eat all of that, I don't think. So really my plan right now is to go up to 1,500 calories, and I have been slowly upping my calories. I am not losing weight anymore, and I have to keep telling myself in my head, I look at the scale and I go, oh, I didn't lose any weight. Jill, you're not trying to lose weight. We're trying to hold the weight. And it's very hard. I've been trying to lose weight for decades. And now to say to myself, no, Jill, we're trying to maintain the weight. Just remember, maintain the weight. And so far I am. So I also haven't moved down in dose yet, so that's not the real experiment. But I have moved up in calories. The other part of it too is, you sit there and you feel tired from Mounjaro, and people say, well, did you increase your liquid? Did you increase your calories? Did you increase your nutrition? Are you getting enough sleep? And all those things are yes. So even with my increased calories, I'm still not feeling energized by this. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what 10 feels like again. I don't remember at the end of 10 feeling this tired. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing I decided with all of this is that I am going to switch my days of my shots to Friday. And primarily because I was worried that as I was escalating in dose, that I was going to feel sick. And this would give me a chance to feel sick before the weekend. And then on the weekend when I go hiking and I do a lot of physical stuff, I'd feel better. Going down in dose, I'm not worried about feeling sick. And I'm more worried about food control. And my most dangerous moment of opportunity to overeat tended to be on weekends. When my friend and I would go out, we go bird watching, we usually go out to eat someplace. And so I want the biggest control on the weekends. And then I'm not too worried about it during the week. So I am going to move the dose to Friday, and I'm starting this week, which means for Thanksgiving I will be doseless. And then Friday will be the dose that I would have taken today. And I think it's going to be okay. I still feel the effects of the 12.5. I have not felt anything like the 12.5. I felt like every dose has waned Monday, Tuesday. I almost felt like a real human being on Monday and Tuesday. And right now that 12.5 hits me so hard, I still don't feel like eating much, even on Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday. It's just, like I said, it just hit me pretty darn hard. So we got a plan. My doctor also suggested, I don't know if I can show this, it's called Glucose Control by Pendulum. And this is a prebiotic that you can buy on the internet. There is a clinical trial associated with it that showed people with this had a smoother glucose response. It kept spikes and dips from happening, and it helped produce and utilize GLP-1 naturally. There, like I said, one clinical trial, my doctor said, I've never seen anyone use this for someone trying to come down off of GLP-1 before, but it's worth a shot. He said, I'd like to see you try this for 6 months and just see if it helps kind of keep that out. Because part of the problem is that when you're going up in calories, you're going down in dose, the potential exists that your sugar gets kind of wacky. And, that's when you start craving food and you get hungry and you want to eat something because you're feeling low on sugar. And he said this should help smooth everything out. So like I said, he says, I have no evidence that this helps anyone coming off of GLP-1. I'll show it again, coming off of GLP-1. But there is a good study that showed people use this to control their glucose and control their eating, and they had good results with it. So I said, I'm good with that. So right now there is a Black Friday sale on it. They're selling all their stuff for 30% off with their subscription. So I bought 3 months, and then I'll buy another 3 months. And so it will be essentially a $500 experiment. There's also a polyphenol side thing that helps your gut biome just be healthier. And that's, I don't know, I'm really, someday I'll do a gut biome episode on it. Some people say that there's a lot to the gut biome, and there's a lot of evidence that there is. The biggest problem is that eating prebiotics at times, our stomachs are so acidic that it can actually kill off many of the prebiotic germs or bacteria before it even starts to take hold. And the biggest, so there's a lot of studies going on there about what can we take that would help our biome. And a lot of people on some side feel like it's just eating a healthy diet with vegetables and fruits and the things that promote. It's almost like you grow what you eat. So if you eat crap, your gut biome grows crap and bad biome stuff. And if you eat well, your body grows good things. And so we're going to try it out, though. We're going to try this out for 6 months and see if this helps, make sure that everything is smooth. And so anyway, he was on board with the plan in general. The other fun thing I've been doing is that I've been using ChatGPT as my food diary. And I didn't create a GPT, which is sort of like a little bitty program, which is really easy to create. But instead, I just said, hey, keep track of my food. Tell me how many calories I'm eating, how much fiber, protein, and I talked a little bit about this before, and how many carbs. And so I just tell it every time I eat. And then every day at the end of the day, I can say, hey, give me a breakdown. How did I do today? Well, you did good because you ate protein for the first thing. You had a little a biscotti cookie, which was fine. You did it after you ate protein, which is the way to do it. And you didn't go overboard in any of the, you didn't eat too many carbs. And, and I told what guidelines I had. I told it that I was on GLP-1 and that I'm trying to come down, but I'm also trying to raise my calories up slowly to 1,500 calories. And so it's monitoring it. And what was fun about it is that it gave me good advice. Like one of the days it said, if you just had a hard-boiled egg sometime during the day, you would have had a perfect day. Or, so it gives me these ideas and these suggestions about what would have made the day better. Like quick thing, like you could have had some of the avocado smash I eat, and that would have bumped you up. So it's been really helpful lately. And then at the end of the week, I can also say, summarize my week, which I did last week. And it says, you're doing great. You're eating protein in the morning. You're having a small biscotti cookie in the evening, which isn't overboard. It's not too many calories. You're getting your fiber in. And it is just keeping track of it and then sort of summarizing my week. So I think it's good for the people who have trouble food tracking because it makes them obsessive. You can tell ChatGPT what it is you want to track. So maybe you have been obsessive about calories in your past. And so you could tell it, just tell me, did I get too many or not enough? Or just don't even talk about calories. Just tell me about my protein, my fiber, and my carbohydrates. You do the macros. But it will do whatever you tell it will, and it will help you keep track of it, and it'll give you good advice. It says, you've been, like today, I tried to get 79 grams of protein in a day, and I got 63. And so it gave some suggestions. Here would be some quick wins you could have had that would have made your day work out better. So that's been going great as well. So overall, I'm feeling the same, and I'm looking forward to that. Now, the issue at hand that I really wanted to talk about had to do with that I went to my eye doctor, and I think I made a mistake in that I should have gone to the eye doctor when I started taking Mounjaro. And the more I'm reading about things and I don't know, just sort of reading and listening to various people, is that when you're particularly diabetic, it's good to go. But also when you start a GLP-1, it's not bad to get a basis, a starting point to see how you were. And I do at my eye doctor, they have what is a digital eye scan. So instead of dilating your pupils so that they can look with a light and see your blood vessels, it's actually an imaging. And then this image will show you changes. So you can see this was your last one, this is your new one. And this is exactly kind of what happened to me, is that I heard them talking in the hallway. Well, we have to give her a referral. And I'm like, oh gosh, referrals are never what you want to hear when you go to the eye doctor. And what they said is that I had optic nerve swelling. And this is not diabetic retinopathy. So we're going to talk a little bit about eye things here quickly. And remember, I'm not a doctor, but I wish I had gone to the doctor right before I started Mounjaro so that I could make sure it would notice any changes. Because is it possible that this optic nerve swelling is caused by Mounjaro, is caused by the effects of Mounjaro? We'll talk a little bit about that. And the short of it is, yes, possibly. So there was a study out there that did make the EU put as one of the side effects that must be reported eye changes in certain people. And it was this particular side effect was 20 people, I think, out of 100,000. And so it's very rare. And for the most part, let's just get any worries out of the way. It should probably get better. So she said there's a little bit of swelling in my eye. She also saw what is called diabetic retinopathy. And that's where there's leaky blood vessels in the eye. And that usually comes from having diabetes. When you use GLP-1s for whatever reason, even if you didn't have diabetic retinopathy before, which I didn't, I did not even have severe diabetes. I mean, 7.4 was my A1C before I started this, which is not healthy, but it's not like deep into diabetes. And I didn't have it for very long. And I never had any diabetic retinopathy because I had them checked the last time I went to go to the doctor. But what seems to happen with this is that the eyeball likes consistency. It wants everything to be consistent all the time. And so if it notices changes in blood pressure, changes in glucose, and it doesn't like that, even though those things are technically healthier. It wants stability. And so that's why when people get diabetic, they can have things happen with their eyeballs. And we've heard of that, where people have had vision problems because of extreme diabetes. She was not freaked out about it. She hoped that I would not be freaked out about it because she said, 1, you haven't had vision trouble. 2, you don't have any pain. It's very minor. And basically, it was her opinion that sometimes this can happen as a shock because you suddenly start changing blood pressure drastically. My blood pressure has gone down drastically. And then you start dropping glucose drastically. I was diabetic, and then 3 days after I started taking Mounjaro, I was no longer diabetic. I haven't been for a long time. So then that's the one curious thing in all of this is why 18 months later am I now having eye problems? And she said that it's been her experience that those things can come later too, even when you're well past it, even when it was changed a year ago. So she said, that she doesn't want me to be freaked out about it. She did put out a referral for me to go see a retina specialist at the university hospital. So she is writing my doctor, telling him what she found so that he can get the referral in place so that we can get a retinal person to take a look at it to see if there's any difference. From what I understand of this, if she was very worried about this being something severe, she would have sent me to a neurologist. And just the fact that she's sending me to a retina specialist means that they have better tools. They have different scans. And so they can use a completely different scan and see exactly what could be the cause of it. So there are reasons, like I said, the diabetic retinopathy shows up as, she showed me that, shows up as little blotches. So essentially, they're just leaky blood vessels. And I think they call them something like wool splotches, where it just looks like tiny little blotches on your eye. Not bad. She said it's just a few of them. It doesn't indicate anything bad. But to her, in her mind, she says, because you just formed some of these, and also you got this optic nerve swelling, maybe that one doesn't cause the other, but maybe they're both related to the same thing, is essentially that. So it's just an optic nerve swelling with a little bit of fluid. And when she showed it to me on the imaging, what it looks like is, I don't know, I'm not an eyeball person, but you get this little sort of yellow oval in your digital scan, and that's your optic nerve hooking up. So if you think about it, the back of your eye is what gathers all the information so that you see. The optic nerve is the network. in computer terms, that takes all that information and sends it to the brain so the brain can process it. And you see in one eye this very nice oval. And in my last scan, in my right eye, you see a very nice oval. What you see now is it's cloudy and it's almost partially covered. And so that's the fluid that is leaked into this particular system. And I didn't have any vision change. I didn't have, like I said, any pain at all. And so the idea is that she was less worried about the retinopathy thing because it was very minor and it probably will just clear up. She also feels like the optic nerve swelling is also temporary, very minor, and will probably also clear up. So so she is not, like I said, entirely concerned about it, but she says it's something we have to follow. We have to have follow-up visits, so I have another doctor visit with her in 6 months. It was funny, I had an intern who was just about to graduate from, so she could be an eye doctor, and I think that, she was kind of like, oh no, what do we tell her, because I think, she probably hasn't had much experience. But essentially, like I said, this is, it seems minor. No major symptom. It's only in one eye. So let's just put it this way, there could be other health reasons why this happened, including MS, including a brain tumor. I mean, this is going into extreme areas, but chances are, if any of those things were true, I would have had them in both eyes, and I'm only having it in the one eye. So again, it feels like it's not severe, whatever is happening. And there are a couple of reasons. There's one thing called pseudo swelling. I don't understand why it's pseudo swelling, so it just might not be swelling at all and just a little bit of a liquid. It could be some minor nerve inflammation. It could be, I Googled everything. This is what you shouldn't do when you get a diagnosis, but I was just checking on everything. It could have been what they call an eye aneurysm or an optic nerve stroke. There's all sorts of things. But like I said, because it is in one eye, it's not painful. I'm not losing vision in my eye at all. It probably is just maybe like a little bit of a plumbing issue, a little pressure pocket, of a moment. So we'll get the refer and we'll find out what that is. But she just said, eyes, even though you are now technically healthier, and this is all good, that your blood pressure is good, your glucose is good. She called me a super responder, which, am I a super? I don't know if I'm a super responder. But, she said, you responded really well to this drug. And so in my brain, this is not a medical thing, I kind of wonder if almost like GLP works so well that it immediately just puts you into good shape, when it comes to so many health stats, that the eyeball is like, whoa, 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 why did everything change? Or something like that. That's my anthropomorphizing my eyeballs. So anyway, like I said, we will get a referral. I will get another probably kind of scan at the hospital, and then we'll find out what it is. I mean, this area, from what she said, is just such delicate little cable fibers back there. And so things just, they're sensitive, and they're sensitive to my body going into shock. Of 1 year, I'm 80 pounds more, and the next year I'm 80 pounds less. And so it's scary. Like I said, it is a little scary for me because I don't like medical things any more than anyone else does. But her reaction to it, her explanation of it, and just doing a little bit of research about it does make me think that whatever is going on is very minor. And so, like I said, basically we will do some other kind of scan. So just to talk a little bit about kind of where this comes into, what am I doing? What am I, is there anything I could do? So my first research item was, well, it's swelling. Can I just take some ibuprofen or something like that? And so that the swelling will go down. And it turns out that this is a whole other kind of swelling. You cannot take ibuprofen for it. You can't ice it. You can't, do what you would treat any other swelling you have in your body. This is way deep in your eyeball, right at the back. And so there is nothing really you can do about it necessarily. So the other part of it is that um, I told her that my plan was to drop in dosage, that I hadn't had a good time with 12.5 and that I'm on a slow path going back to a 7.5. And she said, I think that sounds like a great idea. Now, this is what's important about it, is that a lot of people, when you'll watch a lot of videos, you hear a variety of different doctors talk about it. They're saying, if this happens to you, you don't just drop off the drug. You talk to your doctor. Like I said, you'll get a referral. But because this is probably temporary, is probably something very minor, and they got to find the root cause, to see what it is. It may be, like I said, also could be entirely unrelated. It could be calcium deposits that, are temporary and then will break up. But don't freak out, she said, but it's not bad that you're going down in dose. And she liked the idea of that. So we are, like I said, I will take my shot then on Friday, and I will go down to the 10.0 dose. Part of it too, it's complicated. She said that we just don't know a lot about this. You suddenly go from a drug which was given to X many diabetics, and then suddenly 8% of the United States is taking it. And she says, we just don't know at this point all the different mechanisms in place. We do know there is a study, like I said, that showed 20 out of 100,000 people did get something like this. Most of them, I think all but 3 of them, improved back to normal. She said, I've seen wild things. People who are on GLP-1 drugs gain vision back again. She said, you just don't know. And the idea is that, is there a mechanism where Mounjaro increases intracranial pressure, causing the optic nerve to mess around? Is it, like I said, the pseudo one, where it's just pseudo swelling? It looks like swelling in the optic nerve, but it's actually just some fluid in there, and it's an optical illusion. Like I said, the scan will tell that too. And we'll find out more. The things that I'm doing then is I just decided to do what I have been doing, is making sure that my blood sugar is stabilized. Because right now when I'm taking the GLP-1s, I'm trying to lose weight, before. So if my blood sugar was a little low and I wasn't shaky, I was like, that's fine, because that's where it's going to start pulling calories out of my fat. I wasn't particularly worried about it. I was fasting from here and there and not worry about even Steven glucose. So I decided that we're just going to go on a even Steven path, right? We're going to keep our glucose solid. We're not going to spike it, nor are we going to drop it. We're going to keep my blood pressure even, which means I'm just going to stay very calm. I'm not going to, you can't, really control your blood pressure. It's more of a reaction to something that you're doing. I saw one thing that said, avoid heavy lifting. I exercise and I do weightlifting 3 times a week, but I don't do heavy lifting. So I don't know if that's the case. And, but the idea is I'm going to work on, like I said, I've been working on my stress levels, trying to relax a little bit. Like I said, I'm not stressed, but my body, if you look at my heart rate variability, my body thinks it's stretched. So I'm also making sure I get enough sleep, because in general, sleep is just like the most healing part of the things we do. There was a study that came out, and now that it's kind of funny, they're using AI to make this a little bit better. But when I had surgery, right, they come in every like 2 hours and draw lab bloods, check on you to see how you're doing. And what they started thinking is the best thing a patient who just had surgery could do is sleep. That's when they heal, and we're waking them up every 2 hours. So I was reading about an AI program that looks at which patients is it safe to just let them sleep. Don't go in with labs. Don't go in and give them medication. Where is it safe to do that so we could just let people sleep? And sleep is when we heal. And so I'm going to be working on my sleep. I'm going to be working on staying calm. The other interesting thing is, as I decided to, so in the morning, like I said, I want to increase my calories and I want to increase my protein. And what's the best way to do it is protein drinks. Well, it turned out that a lot of the protein drinks I bought were these morning, like coffee flavored Owen protein drinks, which are good. They got good solid protein in them. They were one of the better brands out there. But they have 180 grams of caffeine in them. And I am drinking right now somewhere about 60 grams of caffeine in like these drink packet things. So I don't think right now is my time to increase my caffeine by 4. So we are going to stay off of the caffeinated Owen drinks and stick with the non-caffeinated for a little while, just to keep, like I said, my glucose solid and steady, my blood pressure solid and steady. Caffeine itself can cause constrictions in your blood vessels. If you ever tried to go in where they try to do a blood lab and you've had a ton of caffeine, they may have trouble finding your blood vessel in your arm because it constricts them a little bit. So we're going to kind of knock off the caffeine a little bit from there. There's really nothing that you can do. And the only thing too is they say, you know, watch out for if you start feeling pain, if you start having blurred vision, or what they call a curtain coming down, where you lost vision in a particular part of your eye, then go to the ER. You know, be watching, you know, to make sure nothing happens. But if nothing is happening, like I said, rest, stay calm, keep everything even Steven. So that's the idea. There are different, like I said, methods, like I said, just to eat evenly, doing the things that I mentioned in past podcasts. I always eat fiber first. If I have carbs or sugar, it comes later in the day, because your body is busy processing the protein. It will get to the carbs and like a biscotti, a sugar kind of thing, and it'll do better processing if you do it later. So those are the kind of plans I'm doing essentially in this. But like I said, I just worry because no one wants to hear that your optic nerve is swollen or there's fluid in there. But like I said, we'll look at other tests. There's some fluorescent types of tests they can do. There's ultrasound. There's an enhanced depth eye scan that is a better version of what my eye doctor has. And then I also had, you know, like they say, oh, well, go get an eye exam. I just had one and my vision was exactly the same. So we're just not going to worry about it too much and just make sure that nothing else changes with that. Like I said, there's some severe headaches that usually come in the back of the head. There are vision issues. That's when you might worry. And like I said, you maybe go to the ER, but none of those things have happened. So just, I think that's the thing, is that GLP-1s are newish when it comes to this many people taking them. And anytime you have a small group of population taking something and then you suddenly increase it by multifolds, you're going to get a lot more reactions to it, because we're all different little experiment boxes. We're, you know, I'm different from you and you're different from me. And we all have different genetic makeups. I even looked at my brother, and even we have the same parents, but our DNA is different by, I forgot what it was. It was some statistic, you know, but we're different people, even if we have the same parents. So we're all a little bit different. We're going to find out more. And like I said, just kind of keep going where we're going. I'm looking forward to dropping down in shots. Like I said, it made me really happy to see that box of 10, knowing that we're going to keep that. And like I said, right now, the weight loss, I am doing the thing that I need to do, which is keeping solid, keeping at the same weight. And if I go up in weight, I'm just going to drop my calories down a little bit and try to adjust with this. But anyway, I hope you all have a really happy Thanksgiving. You know, I think I was thinking about doing an edition about this, but when we've been obsessed with food and dieting, like I said, for me, for nearly 50 years, I have been on a diet. And to decide at one point you're not going to be on a diet, and we just get so obsessed with the whole thing that the whole goal for me is, like I said, changing this into a conversation about health. It was about diet. It was about weight loss. Sometimes you do things in the whole dieting world that aren't particularly healthy for you so that you can lose weight. This phase of my existence now is going to be about health and getting healthy and exercising more and being just a healthier person. And it's a hard mentality to get out of. I have to remind myself a couple of times every day, you're not trying to lose weight, you're trying to get healthy. You're not trying to lose weight, you're trying to get healthy. And sometimes, like I said, they go hand in hand, but sometimes you make different decisions based on those things. But the other part of it, I was thinking about like Thanksgiving and Christmas and how much food there is. You can enjoy food. You might not enjoy as much food. So maybe you get like a little dessert, eat half of it. It is okay not to eat a full, we get that in our brain. Clean your plate. If you take something, eat it. That's how I was raised. Enjoy. Go to Thanksgiving. Try everything. Have a little bit of everything. Enjoy yourself and don't get too obsessed with food. It is my fundamental belief that you do not get in bad health or you don't get overweight based on what you do Thanksgiving to Christmas, but it is what you do that matters the most between New Year's and Thanksgiving. It is what you do day to day. It is not what you do during these holidays. So enjoy yourself. Enjoy your time with your family and enjoy having a good meal with them. It's an important part of our social structure. So I hope that helps. I hope that you are doing well too. I'm going to see if we have any questions or any comments from the audience, which I don't see any. But you're always welcome to put comments in the channel here. This is on YouTube. You're welcome to email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. If you have any questions or other things, like I said, I'm not worried at this point about this, and it looks like it is not severe, and it looks like it is temporary. She called it, what was the word she used? Transitory. And I said, when you mean transitory, you mean it came and it will go? And she said, that's my thought on it. I think that's what's going to happen here. I agree. It's not about moderation. Oh, thank you for coming back again. Yeah, it's about moderation and not deprivation. I would love to tell you, like I when I was a kid, I sort of felt like I wanted the George Jetson where you had a pill. I want the pill and I just swallow this pill 3 times a day and it gives me the exact nutrients and calories I need. And we're not built like that. We are human beings, and eating is part of our social being. It is an enjoyment. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It is about a moderation and not deprivation. So please, find some way of enjoying the holidays. I know, like I said, on 12.5, food has been very, very difficult for me. And that is, like I said, why I'm switching to 10, but that's also why I'm switching to 10 on Friday. We're going to have a holiday. I'm going to enjoy it with my friends, and, we will be okay. And then we get back on the bandwagon. I hope you are doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Thank you so much for coming. Someone came late. Yeah, I had an eyeball problem. Eye doctor thinks, here's the TLDR, right? I had an eyeball problem, an optic nerve looked swollen, and there's a little bit of fluid in there, which is a very rare side effect of GLP-1s, but she felt it was transitory. She sent me to a referral to a retina doctor and not a neurologist, which shows that she is not extremely concerned. Had she been extremely concerned, she would have sent me to a neurologist. So there you have it. That's the the end of it all. Please remember that you can email me, like I said, if you want to. And I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Enjoy and have a great week. And thank you for coming on the show.